There's going to be a moment sometime during the day when I'm going to take Prince Bimbo quietly on one side and say, what on earth were you doing inviting me to speak on impacting for economic growth and human capital development? I'm sure there's an explanation. The issue is he didn't give it to me. Wednesday and Thursday, I spent in Barnes at a fashion show that was raising money for charity. All the best of current UK and international fashion was on show. I have to say, I have never seen anything quite so drab. So thank you for allowing me, and more particularly to bring my wife, to see what fashion ought to be doing and the statement that it can make. Now, let's get to work. Those of you who are of my generation will remember an organization in the UK that dominated the electrical and electronics industry. It was called General Electric. Not quite the same business that's helping, and it has a banner up there. It was run by a cold-hearted autocrat called Arnold Weinstock. And there was an actor called Bernard Miles and his daughter Sally, and they had been given the rights to use and put on plays in a new theatre that had been built in the City of London called the Mermaid Theatre. And his daughter Sally came up with a wonderful idea of having playlets to which children would come and they would watch little plays about electricity, about magnetism, about the oceans, about the atmosphere. And so Bernard and his daughter came to see Arnold Weinstock for sponsorship. And they made their pitch, and Weinstock was sitting down here, king of all he surveyed, with a Praetorian guard of young masters of business alongside him, smiling, waiting for a nod from the great man. And Sir Bernard Miles and Sally made their presentations, wonderful presentations, tremendous idea. And Weinstock turned round, looked at his disciples, and said, well, Sir Bernard, wonderful idea. What age group are you looking at? Now, this was a question that neither Bernard Miles as an actor, nor his daughter as an ideas creator and actress had thought about. So they went into a small huddle and said, well, we thought sort of 12 to 16. And there was a deathly silence in the room. And Weinstock got up and said, well, Sir Bernard, I'm terribly sorry. I don't think we can help you. And you could see people shrink. There was a silence. And Weinstock said, if you thought of including 5-year-olds and upwards, and if you promised me that you would take your plays to every factory in the country that we own, for the workforce and their families, then I'll sponsor you. And I sat there and I thought, yes, there's a lesson here. And the lesson is, if you don't deal with the issues of developing the young, then the future looks pretty glum. Now, my wife, who is sitting there doing her imitation of Barbie in a pink costume, is also the lady who's rowing across the Atlantic. She's got 4 Guinness World Records. She's a member of the Royal Graphical Society. She's planning an expedition to the South Pole entirely of what she calls ordinary women. She's far from ordinary, and so are the women that are going with her. But 12 years ago, when she returned from this first ocean race from Tenerife to Barbados, she was the instigator of an organization that has now become the Inspirational Foundation. Its object is very clear. It's to encourage and support, even inspire, it says, people of all ages, and women in particular, to join a group of extraordinary women who have done, extraordinary things. The object of her exercise is to have people to go into schools, to talk to the children, inspire them, get them to reach beyond their expectations. Now, I'm very conscious of the fact that current and past UK presidents don't get a very good press, deserved in some cases. But George Bush was saying something profound when he said, human capital and an educated workforce are the real foundations of long-term economic growth. And I think Nelson Mandela gets credited with saying a whole lot of things rather like Shakespeare. But I know from what I've been told of the man that his commitment to education and his statement that education is the most powerful weapon when you can use it to change the world. And my case to you today is that, yes, we have to address the current, but the future is in the hands of a different group. The Jesuits say, give me the child and I'll give you the man. But, oops, I've forgotten. No. There we go. I think those are horrible statements. In sub-Saharan Africa, approximately 50% of the population is aged 19 years or younger. The youthful demographic apparently is a significant characteristic of the region, presenting both opportunities and challenges for development. Yeah, but there's the challenge. 33% of the population aged 19 years or younger are not attending school. In sub-Saharan Africa, 1 in every 3 children, adolescents and youth, are out of school. And for me, and I hope for you, the fact that girls are more likely to be excluded from education than boys. That presents both opportunities and challenges for development. If the Jesuits say, give me the child and I'll give you the man, what are we saying to ourselves? If we don't educate the child, what's to become of the man? It's not all gloom and doom. I'm delighted, honored to have worked with Access Bank. Citibank's already had a plug, so I think I'm allowed to do that. Access Bank, for the last 12 years, have run a fundraising partnership with UNICEF for building schools in Kaduna. You'll know that. There's a polo match every year. Last year at Windsor Great Park. Last year, I think about 800, 900 of Access Bank's customers, friends, attended. They raised over $1 million. It was raised, and the estimates were that it will put 8,000 children in continuous education. There were funds devoted to solar-powered classrooms, and there was school community support, as you would expect. And the late Herbert Wigway, Chief Executive of Access Bank, said in an interview after we knew how successful the event had been, yeah, 8,000, $1 million sounds a lot. 8,000 is a lot. But when 8 million are not attending school, we're merely scratching the surface. And yes, of course, we're only scratching the surface, but it's important that we do scratch the surface. Now, yes. I want to just say to you, if you're looking at opportunities and challenges, the opportunities that we've got, we've already mentioned. The diaspora. We can do schools and college exchange. We can have gap year innovations. We can have bilateral youth trade declarations. Is there no way that we can get the fashion, trainees, schools in Nigeria to work for exchange programs with the fashion schools in London and the UK? Yes, there are obstacles. We need to put together a business-led organization to lead the initiative. We need that to be accessing government funds, not allowing government to determine how the funds are used. And there's always those who will say, not my problem. As well as those who will say, well, we did pretty well during the pandemic using Zoom. Ideas are easy. Execution is everything. So, ladies and gentlemen, 75 years of Nigerian independence next year. It presents both opportunities and challenges for development. I hope we take it. I'm part of a group that is putting together an initiative to have an office of the Nigerian British Chamber of Commerce here in London, and with it, a Nigerian Trade and Investment Center. That's what we've done as the Chamber of Commerce, and that's what I hope you will help me fulfill. But more importantly, challenge yourself. How are we going to deal with growth and human capital development, focusing on the young? Thank you very much.